Hey guys, Kiki Kannon here with Kannon Studios and welcome to another video. And today we are going to talk about how to mold and cast your resin prints. I printed my resin prints with my ELEGOO Mars back here. If you're interested in resin printing, I also have a resin printing video for beginners, so feel free to check that out, or otherwise continue watching and maybe you'll learn something. So this is for these Weiss brooches that I make and Sailor Moon brooches. And basically we are going to make a mold and cast these very items. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, stick around. So thank you guys so much, I appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. All the materials we'll be using in the video will also be below in the description. Feel free to hit the sub and like icon if you want to see more videos, and thank you guys so much. I also live stream on Twitch. Feel free to come check me out at twitch.tv/KikiKannon. I work in the studio on various crafts with the cats and occasionally do some gaming. So these were resin printed with my ELEGOO Mars. As you can see, they come out very clean. This one I need to sand a little bit here on the edge, but otherwise it's very minimal cleanup. This one is already sanded, so it's already pretty smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and wet sand this one really quick to get it ready for the molding process. So I'm doing these molds really quickly, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue these down so they don't shift. It's a good idea to add clay around the edges if you don't want material to seep underneath. However, I'm going to go ahead and skip this step and build walls around my objects out of clay so we have something to pour the material into for our molds. Now that we're done building our walls and they're secured, I'm going to spray release and make sure to get it on everything really well. And use Mold Max 20 to make my molds. You can use other mold material because this one has a long curing time of 24 hours. It's just what I have in my shop right now. But because we are making a mold of a resin print, just make sure the material is a 10 silicone if you want to work with silicone and not a platinum silicone, because platinum silicones don't cure against resin printed materials unless you decide to coat your resin with some type of clear coat or something like that. So just be sure to keep that in mind when choosing a material. We have a good 45-minute pot life, which means we have 45 minutes to mix the material well before we'll have to pour it on our molds. And just try to make sure to kind of start on the corner and let it flow over everything as much as possible, but try not to pour it directly on the item. And 24 hours later, we can go ahead and demold our molds here. Because I chose not to put clay around the edges, I'm just going to go ahead and do some trimming with little scissors just to cut out any of the flashing that the material leaked underneath. I'm also going to go ahead and cut the back just so that it lays more flat in case there's any excess sticking up on the back side of the molds. And there you have it. And now we're ready to do some casting. So I'm going to go ahead and spray in some release again into the molds. And we're just going to let it sit for 15 minutes. Now after the 15 minutes is up, for the Sailor Moon brooches, I am going to brush in some Goldfinger Cast Magic from Smooth On. Make sure to coat it in there really well and get out any excess material so that you have a smooth finish. And for the Weiss brooches, I'm going to go ahead and brush in some talc powder because I'm going to be hand painting these instead, and I want to create a paintable surface. I'll be using Smoothcast 300, however you don't need a scale. I just like to use a scale to gauge my material amount for future projects to help me measure how much I need exactly. So now we're going to go ahead and pour part B, and I'm just going to measure it by volume, so I'm just going to match it up to part A. Now that I have the material measured out, Smoothcast 300 normally cures white, but I'm going to go ahead and add some So Strong color dyes to part B. So we're going to go ahead and thoroughly mix the dye coloring in part B, and once that's mixed pretty well, we can now mix both of our materials together before pouring it into the molds. Time to demold our items now that they're already done curing. And they just came out just looking like the original 3D printed, resin printed master. And the brush on looks really good on the Sailor Moon brooches, as you can see. And this is pretty much in the smooth cast, so it won't chip or rub off. I went ahead and sanded the backs, so now I'm just ready to go ahead and add the gems and take away any bit of leftover materials from sanding the backs. This is the finished product of what it looks like with the Weiss brooch, and this is the finished product of what it looks like for my Sailor Moon items, which all my products are sold on my Etsy shop, so feel free to check it out. I am Kannon Studios on Etsy. And thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them below.